Hey guys, welcome back to the Unleashed podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and today we're chatting with my new best friend, Justin Janowski. No, for real, like we just connected on so many different levels on our first call that we had a few weeks ago, and then just got to chat again. He used to sell Cutco knives just like I did. He loves trick shots with basketball just like I do with my son. And then he commented on my map. He has one of those too, and in another room of his house. But just those people that you just instantly like, yeah, this is a good guy I want to stay connected to. And so Justin's one of those for sure. Guys, this was an incredible episode. Justin does sales training, and he has a program or a business called Faith to Influence. He teaches coaches how to run their coaching business, how to get clients, and he also has an awesome site called goodsalespdf.com. If you're looking for practical sales tools, go to goodsalespdf.com or also check out faithtoinfluence.com. But this was an incredible call. We talked about how he got started, and it was so cool. You have to hear how he had no email list, how he created a list of about 200 prospects by his going through his phone and just thinking about people who could refer the right people he's looking for. He went straight to a 3-day retreat, had 8 guys show up at a 3-day retreat, and then had an offer that he gave to them and started a mastermind program out of that. So, man, amazing how he got started. And this almost like a playbook on if you have no email list and you're wanting to go into coaching, or you want to do some type of personal brand business where you want to do courses or a podcast, YouTube channel. Justin showed us exactly on this episode how to get started if you don't have any prospects whatsoever. Follow what he just said. He's also we were just talking about how just having real conversations with real people, and how just making selling so natural. Doesn't have to be scary or weird. It's just a conversation and leading people to a yes or a no, and you have their best interest at heart. And so I love this episode. I learned a ton. I took all the notes, and I'm just excited. Also, he has a conference coming up June 18th through the 20th in Milwaukee, and he's got 6 tickets that are somebody donated. If this speaks to you, you're like, yes, I need to be at this conference, let me know or reach out to him. He gave information on how to reach out to him on the show. Find him on Facebook and tell him that you're interested in one of those tickets, especially if it's something that you're not able to afford right now, but you know you need to be there. This will be really, really good. Again, I love this episode, and got a new friend out of it too. Here it is. Justin, welcome to Unleash. So good to see you.
Thanks for having me on, Ryan. This is fun.
Course. I'm so excited. The very first time we chatted was a few weeks ago. We found out
Yeah,
we have a map like this, right? We
yeah,
both have do trick shots.
yeah.
And let's see, what other big thing that was like, remember what it was, but it was basketball and the map, and we're like instant friends.
Yes, yes. It was pretty immediate. I was happy to
That's
be on the
right.
call with you, and it's always fun. I love like getting introduced. I love having what I call coffee chats
Uh-huh.
and just meeting people on Zoom. And every once in a while, you just click with somebody right away, and
Yeah.
that was our
It
conversation.
was, yes. And
Yeah.
we could have went straight to a Zoom call based on just, who connected us, but and I don't mind doing that with episodes because it literally is like just a coffee chat, except I ran out of coffee. But I have to fix that later. But yeah, with every episode, I love hearing people's stories. So how did you get to where you are now? What led you to into business and all that?
All right. Thanks for asking. I started actually my first entrepreneurial venture and sales venture was when I was 18 years old. I started selling Cutco
That was
kitchen
the other
knives.
one that was the same. Yes,
That was
let's
it.
go.
Okay, that was it. So yeah, when I was 18, I just graduated high school and I was looking in the newspaper. I had to be one of the last people to do this,
Yep.
and look for a job. And there was Cutco, and it didn't say what it was really in the
Like
newspaper. It just
$15
like
an hour is what it said
right
for me
sounded like I
anyway.
could
Yours
earn
might have
some
been,
good money. Right?
yeah.
Yeah, pretty similar to that. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty good. And I went in for the interview and I started selling the knives. And it was a job that like a lot of people thought was goofy or strange or a scam, but it was great for me. I loved it. I earned so much money. I made so many sales. I
Yes.
learned about entrepreneurship and that really like launched me into what is
Mm.
now my career. And
Can you
it was
still cut the penny with the scissors?
oh yeah, cut the penny with the scissors, cut some rope with the knife, like things you would never do in your
Probably the
kitchen.
exact same demonstration that I used to
That's
do.
right. That's right. They had a manual. I just flipped the page and read the next thing. And I learned
Yep.
some like really basic strategies around sales that were really important
Yes.
and still are today. And like develop my self-confidence, my ability to speak and things like that. And then
Yeah.
I did a few other sales jobs in my 20s and then I ultimately like had hired a couple of coaches. I
Mm.
worked with Hal Elrod was my first coach, and then Ben Skemper was a later coach, and it was really fun experiencing the transformation I could receive through a
Mm.
coaching
Mm.
program or through a community,
Yeah.
through being asked the right questions. And there was just a point where I was being asked some of these questions and I was having these great experiences. And I started to realize maybe this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a coach. And
Yeah.
there was an evening I remember coming home from work. And at the time I was doing financial planning. And I
Uh-huh.
was walking down the hallway to my apartment and I just felt like God hit me with like a message. Like
Mm.
I felt I almost went weak at the knees. Like I felt like
Yeah.
I actually got like hit with something. I've never had this experience before in my
Yeah.
life. And it felt like God was telling me that I needed to be a coach and stop working with people from the outside in, but work with people from the inside out. And I decided I was going to
Mm.
launch a coaching business. And Ben, who was my coach at the time, they said, "Well, we need somebody to work with us. We need somebody to like do sales for us. Why don't you learn from us while you get started?" And that's what I did. I worked for 3.5 years for another coaching organization. I learned a
Mm.
lot about business. I learned a lot about sales. I learned a lot about coaching.
Yeah.
And I loved the work that we were doing there, but it wasn't Christian. It wasn't
Mm.
faith-based. Like some of the things I was being asked to do in sales and in business, like didn't align with my values, didn't feel
Yeah.
quite right. And so the second time that I felt like God gave me a message and really called me was to launch Faith to Influence, launch my own coaching business.
Mm.
And man, I know I'm going long with this story, but
No,
can I
no,
tell
no.
you a
You
little
can go
more?
longer. I mean,
All right.
this is awesome.
All right. I've got a little bit more here, which
Yeah,
is
please
like,
do.
it was a very interesting time because my wife and I had just had our first baby. Grace was
Mm.
born. And my wife was very successful before I met her. Kara had gone to the Air Force Academy. She was top of her class in behavioral sciences. She was a psychology teacher at the Air Force Academy, even now as a civilian. She owned her own house before I knew her. Very successful, pretty independent. And
Hmm.
she had quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom with Grace for Grace's first year
Wow.
because my job at this startup company was providing enough to take care of the family. And my second day back to work after a couple weeks off when Grace was born, I felt like God called me to quit that job and start my business. And I called Kara and told her, and she cried. Like it was emotional. Like it was probably a bad time to like throw our finances at risk. I hadn't quit yet, but I said I felt like I needed to do this. And we took a month and we prayed and we thought about it and we talked to people we trusted and we both came to the same solution and conclusion,
Mm.
which was that I
Mm.
was meant to run a
Yeah,
Christian
can you
coaching
walk me
business.
through that process because
Mm.
it's so fascinating just to hear how other
Yeah.
people hear from God. It's all often the
Yeah.
same. There's confirmations and things, but that's a scary move to do
Oh
that
yeah.
for sure in the
Yeah.
flesh. But what are some of the thing? Well, first, how did you get that impression? Do you remember that? And
Yeah.
then what are some of the things that God used to confirm it that you
Yeah.
guys knew? And yeah, like that's it. We know this
Yeah.
is the right. You're not just guessing anymore.
That's right. So the truth is, the message was extremely clear. I don't always tell this full part of the story, but like for a while, it was like, have you ever heard the expression a feather brick truck?
I don't know that I have feather
Okay,
brick
this
truck.
is an interesting one. It's the idea that like God might send you a message with a feather first. It's like,
Mm.
really light and fluffy. You can feel a little something on the side of your cheek and you're like, maybe I should do something here, but you don't necessarily have to change anything or act because it's soft. It's easy first. And then if you don't act, if you don't do the right thing, then you might get hit with a brick and you're like, oh, dang, like, whoa. But you can recover from that and keep going in the same direction.
Right.
And if you don't listen to the brick, then you might get hit by a truck. And then like that's when we're going to change, right? It's
Yes.
kind of
Oh my
a
gosh, that's
kind of
hilarious.
an intense analogy.
No, I
But the
love that.
feather for me was I had kind of gotten the idea for the last year I was with my company. Like some of the internal culture there was toxic, even though
Hmm.
the external product was good. And some of the ways that they were like teaching and talking about spirituality and God didn't fit for me. Like
Sure.
God was being called the universe.
You're right. Right.
And Mother Nature and things like that and
Yes.
other names. And then like the Holy Spirit was being called the Weaver or Source. I mean, there were
Mm.
like different like language patterns that were coming through. I'm like, this doesn't feel quite right to me. Should I be here? Should I not be here?
Yeah.
But I'd been building something there and it was hard to leave. And so I
Hmm.
think I had like the feather. I had this like feeling that this wasn't quite right. I
Yeah.
just kind of kept going.
Yeah.
And then the brick I didn't make it to the truck, but the brick was I got on a call with one of our clients who was a Christian, who was a good friend of mine on that second day back to work. And I had missed the most recent like live event the company held because Kara was pregnant and like close to giving birth.
Yeah.
And he had gone to that event and he told me that he felt like there was a spirit of something that wasn't right there. And he felt like if somebody of strong Christian faith was in that community and at that event, they'd be drawn away from Jesus because of the experience that they had.
Was this a
And so,
fellow
like,
believer you were talking to?
yes.
Okay.
And I trusted him.
Yeah.
And so like that was pretty intense. So I had to like now it was this thing that I kind of felt like maybe this isn't quite right, maybe this doesn't quite align, but I was able to kind of contextualize for myself and say,
Sure.
maybe I can be a light here. But then when he said that, I was like, oh man, now I had to face this head on. And like when he said it, it just felt true to me. And I felt convicted in the moment. So it was like God spoke to me through him.
Yes. Yes.
And I had this idea of running my own business and starting Faith to Influence. I named the company, I took out the domain for faithtoinfluence.com 8 months earlier. So I had this plan and this idea, but I just thought I'd hold it for a few years.
Sure.
And this accelerated the decision-making process. And so then Kara and I, we were just praying every day. We were talking about it. I called 2 or 3 like people who I really trusted, who shared my faith, but also business acumen, and understanding of like where I was going as an entrepreneur. And I just received like a lot of belief and a lot of support that I could do it.
Yeah.
And as we were praying to God, like I just felt the most peace about making the
Yes.
move. And it like didn't feel like I could go back after
Yes.
what I heard him say and how it felt true to me. It didn't feel like there was a road back. So even though it felt like really scary, I was earning over $100,000 there. I earned like 130 grand my last year working with them. And I just felt like I had to let go of the security
Yes.
because I had to pursue what it felt like God was calling me to. And
So
it
good.
felt so true to me.
Yeah. So you never really had to deal with the truck, did you?
Never had to deal with the truck. I mean, who knows what the truck would have been that next thing? Like, but the brick was enough for me to be like, okay, yeah,
Good.
I gotta.
Oh my gosh, I
gotta
love
make
it.
this thing.
The book of you in Colossians in the Amplified version it talks about peace ruling as umpire in your hearts, and that's exactly what you did. Is like you thought about, and this I can describe it. I describe it, and I love here having people on the show that are that hear from God because it's I think some people a lot of people struggle with that. Can I really hear from God? Yes, you can. And you and I are just regular dudes that we desperately want what God has for our life, and He's speaking to us all the time. And I love hearing it from another person's perspective because the way you describe it will probably hit somebody else like now I get it the way Justin said it I get it now. And as I've heard other people say too is you think about this or even think about this and which one gives you peace like
Yeah.
you described it well. You thought about going back and like this just doesn't feel right. There's just an inner
feel right.
check, an inner yuck sometimes I'll say, inner red light going your own way with a new business. Yeah, a little bit scary to my mind,
Yeah.
but you feel peace there and just follow that every single time because that's the Lord giving you that, nudge. Yeah, that's the direction.
That's right. Yeah, and it felt like we had about a 3-month runway financially to make it, and I also like I didn't burn the boats, Ryan. I wasn't so confident that I knew this was going to work. In
Right.
fact, like I had been very average throughout my life. I got a 2.2 GPA in high school. I dropped out of college after 1 year. Most of my 20s, I'd earned like $30,000 to $40,000 a year. I just kind of been like okay at things. And so like having the success at my former company was like really encouraging. But
Yeah.
I'd also taken a personality profile test there, and so did the rest of my team. And like the leader of the company, his personality profile, this was called Wealth Dynamics, said that he was a star. He was meant to lead from the front and be the speaker, be the star, be the face of the organization. My personality profile said I was a supporter. I was supposed to support the star from the back of the room. That would be my gift. So could I really do this myself? And I had a lot of self-doubt and I had a lot of tossing and turning. I told my wife, if this doesn't work in 6 months, here's where I'm going to go ask for a job. Like I had plan B set up from the very beginning. And I just wanted to earn $60,000 that year. I was just hoping I could make it and stay in business. And God provided beyond what I could have expected.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
it was just, yeah, I mean, like 2 months in, we had over 100,000 in collected revenue or booked revenue, excuse me. And then we collected over 250 grand in the first year. And God just
So
had
what
this-
were you doing? What was that first entrance into business? What kind of coaching? What did that even look like?
Yeah, initially what I was doing was I was selling a 3-day retreat.
Okay.
And I'm
This was
sure
for
some
somebody
people,
else, correct? Somebody else's product. You were
this was for myself.
it was your
This
okay,
is for
your
myself.
stuff.
So I sold a 3-day retreat and it was like $1,000. And I got a few one-on-one coaching sales while I was trying to sell and fill that first retreat. I booked an Airbnb and I was just
Yeah.
holding a retreat in the living room, and like
Yeah.
we were cooking food in the kitchen, which was
You had no,
connected
did
to
you
the
have an
living
email
room.
list?
No, no email list. You know what I did was I made a list of all the people I know
Yes.
who fit my target audience. So I was going to work with Christian entrepreneurial men was my first business
Okay.
model. Now I work with men and women, Christian coaches
Okay.
specifically, but there was Christian entrepreneurial men. So went through my phone, I went through social media,
I
I
love
made a
it.
huge list of every person I know who's a Christian entrepreneurial man.
I
I made
love
a
it.
second list of every person I know who trusts me, values me, likes me, respects me, who might be a referral partner, who might refer me to one of those ideal
Oh, that's
clients.
so good. Okay, this is brilliant right here. Okay, let's
Yes.
because this right here,
Yes.
there's so many people that I've talked to all the time that want to have a business. They
Yes.
want to do something and they want to do a course or books or coach like you do, and you're just laying out perfectly right here how somebody could
This is
easily get
it.
started.
This
Okay,
is it.
how
And
many
there's
people did
listen,
you end up with, you think? Do you
there's
remember?
different ways, but that's the way. Like that's
Yeah,
the easiest way. Some people are going to hear this and they're going to cringe. They're like, I could never contact someone I know because there's this fear of judgment or
sure,
hurting the relationship or what sales is, and maybe there's some stories that need to be healed there,
sure.
or even our own self confidence. But
Yeah.
but for somebody who's willing, who's built great relationships, who's like honored those relationships well, who's been generous in their relationships, this is the easiest, greatest way to build a business.
Yes.
And so I probably had 75 people on like the prospect list, and I probably had 150 people on the referral list for all I know.
Oh my
Then
gosh. Okay.
I started sending text messages. I think that first day I was like, okay, I didn't send to everybody. I was scared to send to some
Sure.
people, but I sent like 50 text
What
messages.
do you remember? Like, okay, you don't have to remember exactly, but what do you think
I
that
do know what I said.
you
I know
do?
what I
Okay, go
said
for it.
pretty much. Yeah, I said, "Hey John, I just wanted to reach out because I'm starting a new coaching business called Faith to Influence, and I'm going to be working with Christian entrepreneurial men to help them win more at work, at home, and in their faith.
Ah, so
And
good.
I thought of you as a Christian man who I love and respect, and I'd love to jump on a call and share more about what I'm doing, hear what you're working on, and
Yeah.
just see if this may be a fit for you or someone you know."
With that audience, did they already kind of see you that way? Like what do you think? Did they see these giftings in you already?
Some of them did. Some of
Okay,
them didn't.
good.
But because I had worked in a coaching organization for a few years, I had
Yeah,
some
okay.
relationships built through that. So like maybe I was seen as being in that environment, but I'd never been the leader, right? I'd just
Yeah,
been a
okay.
salesperson.
Yeah.
What I think people saw me as was somebody who was generous, who was honest, who was kind. And
Hmm.
so if they ever asked me for a call at any point, I would have given it to them.
Yes.
And I had a few years of really showing up in my network and trying to be a net giver, where I was
Yeah.
providing more value and giving more than I was
Yes.
receiving, and just like caring for people and being generous and like expressing God's love, loving my neighbor, right? And so I think that I had enough relational equity that
Yeah.
like some people saw me as a coach and a leader and they're like, oh, I love what Justin's doing. Like I always want to talk to Justin. Other people were just like, maybe they felt some obligation or law of reciprocity at play. Like, man, Justin would be there for me. Sure, I'll take the call.
Yeah.
But then I knew how to have a really great coaching call. My sales process
Mm.
is coaching with an invitation at the end of it. And so if I had a really great bold call and I was willing to ask bold questions, I could change the dynamic of a relationship and have them like recognizing the value of working with me based on the nature of what happened in that call.
That's so
And the
good.
thousands of sales calls I had held had prepared me for this. So if they
Mm.
would accept the call, I could show up in that call and make it easy for the right people to say yes. And that led to the first handful of sales and the 8 people at the retreat. And if people are watching this on video, here's
Dude,
the
that's so
picture. This is the
awesome.
original retreat, the 8 guys, and my wife made me this. It's a gold picture frame. It's got a dollar on the back representing the
Yes.
first dollar. But these first 8 guys, these came 2 months into running my business. It was February 7th. They came to this retreat. 6 of the 8 guys on day 2 bought my high ticket program for the year. And by the end of that weekend, 2 months in, I had a hundred
Well, so
thousand
you
dollars
charged them for
booked.
the retreat and then had an upsell at the retreat?
Exactly. Charged them for the retreat and
Dang.
then like created a really empowered experience over the first couple of days. Was totally scared before the retreat began and wondering whether or not I could even do this. But then God, like I
Love it.
just surrendered to God and prayed and he delivered through me. And people were crying throughout the weekend. They were having incredible breakthroughs. And when I made that offer, it was like the easiest thing in the world
That's so
for 6
awesome.
of them to be like, yeah, I'm in for this.
You were
It
my
was like five
hero.
to
What
ten
was
thousand dollars.
we
Yeah, it
won't
was so
talk about
fun.
what I mean, I know this is what you teach people to do. So real quick
Yeah.
before I know we're not done yet, but this is firing me up. Faith2influence.com, is that where they find you?
Yes, they can find me at faith2influence.com. If people want like some free resources, we give away our 10-step sales process and like some of our sales content. some people who are listening to this, they're like, yeah, I want sales content. Other people listening to this right now are like, the last thing I want is sales content. I want people to click and buy. I don't want to ever have to make a sale. Regardless, if you sign up for our free 10-step process, maybe it'll change the way you feel about sales. But it will also get you on our email list where we'll share our podcast for free and our sales newsletter each week for free. And you can find all of this at goodsalespdf.com.
Goodsalespdf.com. Cool. All right. And we'll definitely hit that at the end too, but I just wanted to, dude, this is so encouraging because there's another thing it's like us is I already had an email list, but I wanted to do an event, and so I thought, what's a low risk way to do an event is just do it at my house because if nobody shows up, nobody has to know.
Yeah.
I was just teaching people how to make money on Amazon, so we did an Amazon little deal, a evening dinner, and then the next day workshop. I think I had seven people pay $900 to come.
Nice.
So to us at that time, that was an enormous amount of money. I mean, still
Right.
take it right now, it'd be great. But it was really, really fun. And that really kind of gave me the confidence. I was scared to do it like you.
Yes.
But that's so awesome. Those of you guys that are listening right now, this is a perfect way to start a business. Just if you don't have an email list, go down your list of people that you already know you have a relationship with. Tell them what you feel called to get into and see who has interest.
Do it scared. Do it scared.
Yes.
And like here's the truth. I just want to say one more thing about this. If we do sales right, it feels good whether people buy or not. And if we love and respect people whether they buy or not, they'll love and respect us whether they buy or not. In my experience, if we show up and add a tremendous amount of value in a high value conversation, people are going to feel good. They're going to like us more because of it. They're going to respect us more because of it. And it doesn't have to be this really high pressure, uncomfortable thing. When I was selling Cutco knives, we did the same thing. And this may be what prepared me. Is like, I called my friends' houses. That was when we had home phones. I called my friends' moms. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this summer job selling these Cutco kitchen knives. You don't have to buy anything. I just need practice. Would you be willing to have a conversation? Can I come over and show them to you? And they would say, yes, but I'm not going to buy anything. I'd say, totally fine. That sounds great. And I'd come over and I'd have the presentation and I'd ask them, some questions. I'd show them the stuff and I'd say, do you want some of this? And if I was willing to just do that, I was surprised how oftentimes 90% when I was selling Cutco, people would say, yes, I do want some of this after all. But it was like just getting the conversation. It was like the same thing with this initial list of people I was going to have conversations with. If it made somebody more comfortable because they couldn't have a serious like prospecting and then conversation with a person without feeling weird based on the nature of the relationship, just tell them you're practicing. Say, hey, I'm starting a coaching business. Like, I feel like God's calling me something really important. And I just want to get some practice and repetitions, having conversations, providing some free coaching, sharing my offer with people. And I'd love to get your feedback. Would you be willing to have a conversation on Zoom and let me practice with you? And it's so funny. Like, I didn't do that, but like, that's what I did at Cutco. And that's what you absolutely could do. And your cousin, your neighbor, your friend, they'd be like, sure, you can practice with me. But if we practice well and then we share our offer and we have a great coaching conversation with them and we invite them to buy and we've got a problem we can help them solve, some of those people are going to buy, or they're going to refer us to somebody, or they are going to give us good feedback, and we're going to learn and get better and build our confidence, and all of that is worthwhile.
Brilliant. Do you feel like when in the space of people that want to they have a message on their heart that they want to get out to the world and they want to do coaching or mentorship or courses or write a book and podcast and do YouTube, all the stuff that you and I do, I tell folks that if they need quicker money in this route is to get some coaching clients. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Like, writing a book's going to take some time. Starting a podcast or YouTube channel is going to take some time to build an email list and get them down to an offer. But literally, what you just said, who's on your phone list already? Do you feel like, you know what, they would be an awesome client if I could get them? Just put out on YouTube or put out on your Facebook profile. I'm thinking about doing this. Is that what you would tell people? Like, the quickest way to cash in this space would be one-on-one clients, like a couple clients?
Well, it could be one-on-one or it could be group. I primarily wasn't making a one-on-one offer. Like, I wanted to run a group program. I wanted to run these live events. But what has to be one-on-one to start if we want to have success early on is we just need to have real conversations with real people and invite them to buy. So like, we're looking for the one-on-one sales conversation, which is coaching based, where we can invite people to buy. Like, that's it. Like, if somebody's listening to this, I want to simplify it so easily. The success that you're going to have or not have in your coaching business comes down to how many people you're willing to have conversations with one on one
Yeah.
and invite to buy and share your offer with. And the more you do that, the more success you're going to have. The less you do that, the least amount of success you're going to have. And here's the problem most coaches have, especially when they're new. And you were kind of referencing this, Ryan, already. I think in like marketing and lead flow, there's two things to focus on. One is what I call the short game. And the short game is, what can I do today to make a sale this month? The long game is the other side of things, which is, what can I do every week for the next 3 years to make sales way easier for me 3 years from now? And what most new coaches do, the mistake they make, is they pour all their time and attention and energy into the long game, like the podcast that you want to launch, the YouTube channel that you want to have, social media posting, writing the book, writing a blog, writing an email newsletter, developing your website, your lead magnet, etc. All of these things are good. All of these things will lead to sales eventually if done consistently and done well, but it probably takes a few years for most people who have no email list, no following, they're not a New York Times bestselling author. It's going to take a long time for any of these things to equal sales.
Yep.
And most people only play that game because it feels safe. They don't have to ask anybody to buy at any point. And so it feels like they're making progress and they're busy and they're working hard, but it's like pretend business.
Yeah.
And they never make it to the long game to get the return because they have no clients, no income, no reputation, no testimonials. And so they end up going out of business before they ever get the return from those activities.
Yes.
While we're playing the long game, choosing maybe one or two things that feel light, easy, and fun for us, like a podcast or a YouTube channel or posting or writing or whatever it is, we have to play the short game, which is, what can I do today to make a sale this month? So we can start getting some case studies, building our confidence, getting some testimonials, making some money so that we can invest more in the long game and take the pressure off of that part of our business. And the short game includes things like reaching out to people we know, networking and building relationships, asking for referrals, speaking. You know, if we can speak in front of somebody else's audience and make an offer, that's a great opportunity. And it could be like direct messaging on social media that's cold. That's not very efficient. It's not very fun for a lot of people. But if you're like, I'm not going to contact people I know, well, then build your LinkedIn profile and start adding people who look like your ideal client and start sending them messages and inviting them to calls. It's going to be inefficient, take a lot longer than people you know, but we can get there doing that. Or you can, if you've got money to invest, you can have paid ads and like lead that to a weekly webinar and then make your offer there. But if we're not, this is the biggest problem. If we're not doing something today that can equal a sale this month, we can't expect to make sales.
Right.
And every single week, we need to be playing the short game, at least a little bit, spending 1 or 2 hours a week doing something that's going to lead us to real conversations where we can invite people to buy and make sales this month so that we can make it to the long game and the payoff of all those hard work efforts. And if you have to drop one or the other, drop the long game while you're new, play the short game and get some clients, get some confidence, get some referrals. And then from there, start leveraging the long game.
Yeah, I had a friend that has a whole business called 100 Cups Academy, and it's just having coffee with people, just building relationships. Now, they don't always lead to business, but it's just, he's got a massive network now. So, oh, wow. That's so good. Oh my gosh. This is amazing. I didn't know that we would talk about like this specifically, but this is so good for people that are listening, because I've been talking recently, a lot of people that want to start this type of thing. And so you just laid out exactly what they should do to get started.
Yeah. And listen, I want to say this. I know I'm like speaking in very direct terms here. There is a lot of flexibility, and I mentioned a few of the ways. A lot of flexibility in how we play the short game. And everyone who's listening to this who wants to start a business, they have to design a business plan that will be fun for them and that they can execute on. Because if it's overwhelming, if it's too intimidating, if they just like have too much fear to act, then they won't do anything and they won't get the result. And so it's really important to recognize that, yes, we should have a clear business plan, and yes, we have to play the short game, but then also know that if we get the right mentor, if we get the right support, if we are resourceful enough to consider the different options, it's important for people to know there are a lot of different ways to do it. We just need to find our way, and then we need to execute again and again.
So good. That's awesome. Let's talk about sales for a minute, because that's also obviously scares a lot of people, the word being a salesman. I think we all are salesmen. I mean, I was a salesman when I tried to, date my wife and ask her to marry me. You're in sales. Everybody's in sales, whether you really like it or not, or know it or not. How do you see sales? I've heard people say selling is serving, but what's your take, and how do you make it so it's not so scary to people?
Yeah. Well, I believe sales, when done right, is nothing more than making it as easy as possible for the right people to say yes.
Mm,
I'm not trying to force anyone's decision. I'm not trying to sell the wrong people. I'm not trying to manipulate, pressure, push. In fact, I don't want force at all in my sales
mm,
conversation. I want to remove resistance. I want it to feel easy and light.
yeah.
But I want to make it easy for the right people to say yes and work with me. And I know that sales, when done right, can feel generous. Sales, when done right, feels like leadership. Sales, when done
Mm,
right, feels like coaching with an invitation at the end of it.
mm,
I even believe sales, when done right, can feel like love. It can be a process, especially from like a coaching or service-based entrepreneur's standpoint. If we held this call well, it can be a process where we help people get more of what they want or become
mm,
more of who God created them to become. It can be this really wonderful thing.
yeah.
You know, sales, the way I do it, it's getting to know somebody, it's asking a lot of questions, it's understanding where they're at now, what their goals and dreams are for the future. And how often do people really get to share their vision, their goals, their dreams out loud with somebody who's like a totally captive audience, who's really creating space for them, who's really
Yeah.
listening, who really cares, who has curiosity and follow up and believes in them and encourages them. Like that
Mm,
alone is such a gift. And then what we do get to is asking questions about what the problems are that are preventing them from achieving those goals. And if we
mhm,
can help people gain clarity on the problem, then the question is, how committed are they to solving that problem? And if
mm,
they can commit to solving the problem and they've identified what it is and they've gotten clear on what they want, what a gift we've given them, even if we never work with them again.
yeah.
But if we can help them solve that problem, we can ask permission to share our offer. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
really think I can help you with this. Would you like to
Yes.
hear how I work with my clients? Yes? Cool. Here's how it works. Is this something that you'd like to do? And it's just like this like easy, valuable
Yes.
thing when we do it right. And I think that a
Yeah.
lot of people think sales is going to be pushy, it's going to be aggressive, it's going to feel
Yeah.
bad, there's going to be judgment, rejection, all these things. And I think that we need to heal our stories around sales. Can I tell you a story of one of my clients?
Please. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Laura Nizer, she came to me and she came into one of our like virtual challenges we were running at the time, and she told me that her story about sales was that sales is pushy. It's really pushy. And I said, Laura, are you pushy? And Laura said, no, I'm not pushy. I said, if I put you on a sales call, would you then be pushy? And she said, no, I can't do it. That's why I'm not good at sales. And I said, Laura, if you wouldn't be pushy on a sales call, how would you be? How would you show up? And she said what you were saying before. I would show up to serve. I would just want to serve them. I said, that sounds really nice. So is sales with you pushy? And she said, I guess not. I said, what is sales with you, Laura? And she said, sales with me is service. And she
Mm,
rewrote that story that day. And the next week, she made two $7,500 sales. And that $15,000 was more than she sold the entire previous year in her business
that's
because she
incredible.
had resistance in her own mind that sales was pushy. She's not pushy. In other words, she can't do sales. So you know what she did? She didn't even book calls. Or if she booked a call, she made
Mm,
friends on the call but never made an offer. Like there wasn't anything like there was just too much resistance and she like was getting in her own way. She was self-sabotaging. But once
yeah.
the story shifted, the resistance was removed, then she was able to make that $15,000 the next week and
That's
more than she did the
awesome.
previous year. You know, it was a
Incredible.
similar story with Albert Pellichet, who thought every time he made a sale, he was taking food off of people's tables. And we helped him like change that story. And he started to
Yeah.
believe that, well, maybe when he made a sale, he was actually helping people put better and more food on their tables because he helped
Yes.
people earn more money through the work that he
Right.
did.
Right.
And once his resistance was removed, he went from a $30,000 to $40,000 business to a $90,000 the next year.
Mm,
But oftentimes, like that story
right up
about
here.
what sales is and who we would be if people perceived us as a salesperson
Yeah.
creates so much resistance that we
Yeah.
never move into action. We just
Yes.
avoid at all costs. And
Yeah.
so, if we can heal the old stories, then we can probably pursue the conversations, have a lot of fun, have a lot of impact,
Yeah.
and of course, start making sales.
That's so good. I like how you said it. You were just that transition sometimes is hard for people to go from having a great conversation, we're having a blast,
Yeah.
and you pull out from me what my dreams are, and you just said, "Hey, Ryan, can I think I can really help you out. Can we talk about how I work with my clients?"
Yeah,
That's not hard.
that's right.
Yeah, of course I want to hear that. I mean,
That's
and
right.
I may not be able to, I'm probably nervous, like he's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars and I can't afford it, but that's okay. I mean, I want to hear I want
Yeah,
the transformation. So,
that's right. That's right. And if somebody says they can't afford it, like, can I just give a little bit of objection handling
yeah, please.
thoughts?
I know I'd love that. I don't know.
Cool.
I want to be respectful to you because this is what you do. And
Yeah.
feel free to share because
I'm
that's a
happy to
lot of what
share.
scares people of overcoming
Yeah.
objections. And I don't want to feel pushy, and I want to give them time to pray if they need to pray because I need to pray about stuff. So feel
Yes.
free to go after that. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. And my former company, by the way, was like, you cannot let somebody get off of a call to think about it, pray about it, talk to their spouse. We had a $20,000 offer at that company. I'm like, we're going to try to get them to not talk to their spouse about $20,000. I'm like, I couldn't do that. That wasn't for me. I want people to know they don't have to do that. I do believe it's very important to end every call with yes, no, or the next call booked. So if they're
Mm,
going to think about it, they're going to talk to a spouse, they want to pray on it. Great. I totally understand that. And can we just line up a quick 15-minute call for tomorrow or the next day where we
yeah,
can check back in? I can answer any final questions you have and we can decide whether or not to move forward.
that's good.
Everyone says yes to me on that. I end with the next call booked. I don't have any weird follow up where I'm sending multiple messages. I'm wondering how soon is too soon to send them the next one. And now I'm chasing, and the whole dynamic of me being their leader is gone because follow up can feel like a desperation play if they're not responsive to it immediately. But if I
Mm,
line up the next call, I don't need to follow up at all because we're going to be back on the call together in a day or two. And they're
yeah,
actually going to think about it. They're actually going to make a decision because they have a deadline. But what I
yeah,
want people to know about objection handling is it shouldn't be like sales scripts and one liners. It should be a conversation with
mhm,
validation, understanding where they're coming from, in other words, and
mhm,
curious questions. And just like the aim of helping them find the right decision for themselves. So if somebody
yeah,
says to me, like, oh man, that sounds great. I don't think I can afford that right now. I'd say, I totally understand. It's a really big investment. Tell me more about that for you.
mm,
Now they can share because I can't afford it right now means 100 different things, of course, right?
sure,
We've got access to over $100,000 of credit, which is incredible, like through business and
sure,
credit card. Like we've got good credit. So we've got access to probably buy most things that somebody would try to sell me, we could just buy.
yes,
But I might say I can't afford it. It means it doesn't fit in my budget right now, right? So I want to just say, tell me more about that. I want to open the conversation. And we
mhm,
might find that like this person can't afford it. It's not responsible for them to make this decision.
yeah,
Or they might start to share, well, I'm just scared. Like even in the tell me more about that. They might be like, well, I'm just scared that I'm going to spend the money and not be able to get the result. And what we
mm,
find is like, it's not actually about the money. It's actually about their self doubt and whether or not they can do it.
yes,
And
yes,
sometimes they just need a little bit of encouragement.
yeah,
And like, hey, how long has that pattern been going on? And like, how long have you thought that maybe you weren't good enough to do this? And,
mm,
there can be some coaching here and there can be some understanding of each other. And ultimately we can try to find an answer. And I might even like tell people like, listen, my job is to make it easy for the right people to say yes. If you want to do this, I'd like to find a way to make it work. But if it's not for you right now, I totally understand. Is this something that you want to do? And if
mm,
they're like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, let's try to figure this out. So you can just see it's just curious. It's problem solving
yes,
together. It's like we're on the same side of the table. If
yeah,
somebody said, I want to talk to my spouse, I'd say, I totally get it. I'd talk to my spouse about a big decision like this too. Let me ask you a question though. Have you made your decision for you yet? If she says, whatever you think, babe, I trust you. Do you know what you want to do?
mhm,
Because this is going to give me an opportunity for like my prospect can say, yeah, I'm in. Great. Now they're the fact that they're claiming that and they're saying that they're in and they're telling me that they're going to have a different conversation with their spouse. And
yeah,
it's more likely that we're actually going to work together. Or they might say, well, I don't really know. I'm not sure if this is for me. And then I'm recognizing that the spouse wasn't the objection. It was just
yeah,
an easy way
right,
to end the conversation
for sure,
rather than having the real conversation. But if I've got the right tone, this
mhm,
isn't threatening for me to have a real
no,
conversation. I might just say, well, what's holding you back?
mhm,
Well, I'm not sure if I've got the time for this and this and this.
mhm,
Okay, well, talk me through your time and your priorities. Like, we can just start talking about it, and with the
mhm,
right tone, the right pace, like this is stuff that we learn, it can become easier.
yeah, so
And
good,
so that's like the objection handling thing. And
yeah,
I'm okay with people saying no. I want to make it easy for people to say no. I want to make it easy for people to say yes.
yeah.
And I'm happy to line up another. Like, why don't we
Yeah,
just
because you
take a
don't want
couple of
somebody to be
days?
forced into it because they might just end up refunding anyway.
That's
And
right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah. But I found if I treat people with great respect and I trust them and I just have real and honest conversations, I tell them what I think. Like, oftentimes we're going to infuse encouragement here. Like, here's the
hmm,
truth. I really know that you can do this. I
hmm,
really believe I can help you.
yeah,
You also get the sense that I can help you.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool. Like, listen, if you were part of this community and we did this and this and this for you, and would you be willing to do your part to make this
hmm,
work?
yeah,
Okay. Or if they're like, well, I've made investments like this in the past, they haven't worked out. Say, I totally get it. Probably scary to make another investment like this. What now is different about you than those
mm,
times?
Hmm.
Or how does this feel different? Does this feel different than those felt?
Yeah.
In what ways does this feel different? Like there's just an opportunity for them to just, if they want to think about it in process, that's normal, but can we help them think about it in process? If we're a coach or a leader, you would
Yeah.
think that we'd be able to support them in the thinking and processing part of
Mhm.
the conversation. That's part of what coaching
Yeah.
is helping people evaluate information, consider different angles on the information, and make their best decision. And
Mhm.
so that's just what I want to provide in a sales
So good.
conversation is a little bit of coaching and support and helping them make their best decision.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't think I've ever really talked about. I had it before this, before Unleashed. It was called Streams of Income. I don't really
Yeah.
think I've ever did a deep dive on sales. Like, I mean, this is not a deep dive
Yeah.
compared to what you do in your programs, but
Sure.
just even talking about this at this level, this is so good and very
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah.
I love it. What else is on your heart? I mean, anything else you'd like to share when I know you do speaking and you're actually hosting a conference coming up, which is so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Man, God is so good in opening doors. And I got introduced to Tom Ziegler in January and by one of my clients, which is just really cool. And Tom was so humble and awesome. Son of Zig Ziglar, the one of the most famous speakers in the entire
yes.
world, the history of the world, really, like just a great motivational speaker, leader, salesperson. And Tom is now the CEO of Ziegler Coaches, and he's running a really big organization. They've got millions of followers online, and that introduction went really well. And I shared with him like what I was doing and how I was helping coaches with sales and business
Yeah.
development, and
Yeah.
they help people learn how to coach and lead and speak.
Mm.
But sometimes there's a gap in like the sales and business side of things. And he's
Yes.
like, well, can I check out some of your content? This was a really cool thing. I was like, okay, cool. We'll just give him like access to our $75 a month like library
Mm.
of content that
Yeah.
goes along with our membership. And I didn't know if he'd really actually watch this, but he
Uh-huh.
did. He watched a few of the trainings. He was like, I love this. Like, our coaches need this. And so he invited me to come speak at his conference coming up in just 2 weeks from
That's so
now.
incredible.
And then we were planning our summer conference, Christian Coaches Academy Live 2025. And when we were talking about me coming and speaking at Tom's, he was like, my conference came up and I'm like, we probably can't afford you. And he's like, well, I'd love to come speak at your conference. And we worked that out. And so
That's
he's speaking at our
awesome.
conference in June, and we've got 75 Christian coaches and entrepreneurs booked for the event right now. Our goal is to get to
God.
100. It's June 18th through 20th. So, people are going to listen to this at all different kinds of times. And if
Sure.
you're listening to this someday in the future, like, reach out, find
We'll
me
have
on
another
social.
one.
Let's talk. We'll have another event. We'll be doing other things. But if somebody's out there listening right now and they're like, man, I'd love to meet other Christian coaches and entrepreneurs. One of the things I love is finding people who share my faith and my values who also understand what's going on in my business, because
Yes.
those relationships are just different and special. And so we're
Yes.
going to have great speakers talking about sales, branding, marketing, and helping people like bring their business forward with simple,
Mhm.
straightforward, important strategies. And when there's also just going to be networking and prayer with really good people. So
I
that's
love
the other
it.
exciting thing we've got coming up.
That's so cool. Man, just think about all the other organizations that are like Zig Ziglar's organization that have coaches. I think about
Right.
John Maxwell has a huge certification program. I wonder if they teach their people how to do what you do in order for them to get business.
Yeah. There's
Even if
probably
they
some
did, it would be
support
from
there.
you'd come from a different angle and just you
That's
would
right.
say it a different way, and some people would just gravitate to the way you do it. And
Yeah.
hmm,
Ryan, I'm feeling called to say this for some
go
reason,
for
which
it.
I
Yeah, please
haven't,
do.
I hopefully nobody else is like, why didn't you say this when you were speaking on my podcast? But if we had a few clients donate tickets to the summer conference,
Mm,
and they just bought a few extra, and they're like, I want to give these to people
yeah.
who want to come to the event, can't afford it, etc. Like tickets are pretty low price. We're providing like lunch all 3 days. It's like a $275 ticket. But if
Mhm.
somebody's listening to this right away and they're like, I want to go to that, find me on Facebook, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram, Justin Janowski, and just send me a message and say, hey, I want to come to the event, and I'll send you the link and all the details. Or you can send me a message and say, Justin, I want to come to the event. And man, that free ticket from one of your clients would mean a lot to me. And you've
Mm,
got it. I'm going to make it
thank
happen for
you.
you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. I appreciate that so much. I'll put that in the show note, which means I'll make sure I air this like today's Friday. So they come every episode comes out on Friday. So I'll make this the Friday
Amazing.
the 9th.
We didn't even talk about that. So
Oh,
I'm
this
putting
is
you under the
perfect.
gun, making an assumption here.
Oh, I
But
love
yeah, if
it.
you're listening to this right away on Friday, May 9th, we're like 6 weeks out from our conference. And I'd love for
Yeah,
you to be there and join us. And
so awesome.
my job is to make it easy for the right people to say yes. So if somebody's listening,
Yes.
they want to be there, reach out and we'll make it happen.
What a generous offer. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Very cool. Well, I love, obviously, we connect on so many different things. We could geek out on Cutco knives, and I hated the phone, by the way. I did not. Maybe you were good at it, but my manager kept on me. Like, I would do everything I could not to make the phone calls. I'd organize my 3x5 cards in order, and that phone scared me. I still don't like talking on the phone.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing that holds people back is, most people, if we booked all the calls for them, they would
Uh-huh.
actually be able to show up and make sales.
Yes.
Certainly, most people, if we made the sales for them, would show up and be a great coach and provide great service. The challenge is, as a solopreneur starting out without a lot of money to invest,
Right?
have to be willing to book the call for ourselves. We have to be willing
Yes.
to get on the call and invite people to buy, and then we get to do all the rest.
Yes.
But what becomes cool is when you learn the right way to do it,
Yeah.
it can become fun
Yeah.
to book calls and hold calls and
Yes.
invite people to buy. That's when the game changes. That's when business becomes really easy. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying that that's going to be a comfortable road for everybody,
Uh-huh.
but I do believe we can change the way people feel about sales. And I love a good challenge. So if somebody's listening and is like, that I couldn't do that, then let me know, and like we'll see if we can work with you. One of our clients, Amy Arthur, I randomly in our sales school for coaches
Uh-huh.
program a few weeks ago. I'm not going to share all the context of why I said it because there was a long story leading up to it. But I told our group, I'm like, if anybody holds 100 sales calls and invites people to their signature offer one on one, and they go 0 for 100, I will pay you $1,000 as a congratulations for your hard work. And I'm like, this is recorded. Like, 100%, I will pay you $1,000 if you go for 100. And Amy Arthur tells me now that she thought, as she heard me say that, she will be the one. She will be the one who goes over 100, and she's going to earn the $1,000. And she used our sales process, and our first call made a sale and was
Wow.
proved wrong and was like, oh my gosh, that was so much easier than I thought. And it went so much better
Yeah.
than I thought. But she was following the process, and
Yeah.
now she's got confidence. And immediately after that, sales feels different
Mm,
and it's starting to feel fun for her. And so we just need to get
okay.
people over like that first hurdle.
Yeah.
And so if somebody's listening, they're like, man, I know I need sales. If we want to just be honest, don't we all need
Oh,
sales to have success in
absolutely.
our business?
Yeah,
It's the thing that we need the most.
for sure.
And I want to encourage people that it can be easier and more fun than they
Mhm.
think. And I'd love to help
Yes.
people with that.
Love it. All right. Faith to influence.com. And then is that the number two or TO?
Yeah, it's the number two,
That's what I
faith,
thought.
number two,
That's what I thought. And
influence.com.
then goodsalespdf.com.
Goodsalespdf.com for some free resources.
Awesome. Justin, thank you. This has been awesome. You are welcome back anytime. I love hanging out with you and we'd love to chat more.
Thanks, Ryan. It was my pleasure.